What is going on, everybody? It's Drew Hopkins, and let me tell you, this is a pretty special day. We are actually in the Real Deal Landman, what I would say the Oklahoma City studio, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
someday we'll have to give a tour. We don't have time. The square footage of it, we don't really have time today to show the entire stuff as to what it is.
Well, I'm really happy today because like most of the time we're doing this at our desk, at our respective homes. You're in Colorado Springs, right. Oklahoma City here. But occasionally we get blessed with Jerris Johnson coming to Oklahoma City and being in studio, whatever we're calling that.
Well, when we've got people like this,
absolutely,
you gotta make the trip.
Absolutely. You know? Well, so what we've done today is that we have turned my office space, which you recognize the background if you're watching online, into I would say 4-person max is the max of this place. But we are really excited because we have the guest with us today, and that is Raney and Michael Gumbs from Impact Energy Solutions and EQV as well. So we're going to dive into all of that. But first off, I mean, you're here in the studio. Like, give me the visual assessment of what, if you were describing what you're seeing around here to the viewers at home.
Cutting edge. Cutting edge.
Cutting edges.
It's cutting edge, and that's what comes to mind. I
didn't prompt you with that, and I'm glad I didn't, because that's exactly what I was wanting to go for. I see online, I see, who have we got? We've got Oil and Gas Global Network. We've got Digital Wildcatters. Yeah. We've got some of these guys, and recently they showed pictures of like their online studios, and it was like crisp, beautiful, like refinished, like wood tables. Everybody had their own mic. The cords were all going through the table and everything. And it was like super clean. And then I invite everybody to come here, right? And I'm stepping over cords and trying to like pick Michael up and put him in a seat in the back and like making sure the cord doesn't go around Grant. And we've got electrical hazards. We've got knocking over cups. Like it's,
to be fair, though,
cables.
Yeah, there's a few wet cables here. I mean, for sure.
To be fair, though, every piece of equipment that we use has come highly recommended from Jeff Bezos.
That's right.
Yeah.
What else do you need at this point?
I mean, at least 4.5 stars. We can't afford the 5-star stuff. But we can get the 4.5.
That's right. And
that's what I filter to, anyway.
Everything that we buy that works for the studio, quote unquote, that doesn't work. I mean, we just Amazon return that thing, baby. Send it right back.
Okay. Speaking of Amazon specials, what do my eyes see here?
Well, I mean, when I knew you were coming in, the main thing that you had to have was I had to dig these out. And granted, they're going so fast. The fact that I can even give you this many to take back to Colorado, pretty amazing.
And it's quality.
And I'm not even charging Grant or Michael. Like that's the main thing.
Well,
yeah,
I appreciate the slap bracelet. I know how much you have coveted the hat, and so I still don't have one for you.
You actually did kind of get my hopes up there for like a half second.
And that was worth it.
I was like,
I did think about it, and then I didn't do it.
Well,
but another time,
I would say it's
you want black, right?
Is
that what you said? You wanted a black one?
Oh, whatever color at this point.
Do you like the trucker style?
I do. I do like the.
Oh, you do?
Okay,
all right.
I'm not like total flat bill cap. I am 43 at this point in my life. I'm just trying to hang on. Like I don't have any cool like points.
You're well embalmed.
I do. I mean, I knew I invited them here for a reason, and mostly it's the compliments.
Yeah, it's raining down really hard.
Well,
thank you guys.
So we're honestly very happy. Like I have known you guys for, I mean, going on quite a few years now.
Actually, all of you being former Chesapeake.
All former Chesapeakers. Like what let's do is let's introduce. Much like what we do on each one of these shows, let's get people kind of the background, the 30,000-foot view of who you guys are. Oklahoma City based. Is that where the company is?
Yeah, Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City based. Okay.
Are you guys from Oklahoma City originally?
I'm from Oklahoma City.
I'm originally from Puerto Rico. Moved to Oklahoma City.
Is that by Miami? or is that? Are you talking?
Well,
Puerto Rico, Caribbean islands. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. Grew up in Stillwater.
That's right.
And then of course I make my bones in the city.
In the Ponca City, right?
Well, in Oklahoma City, but Ponca City is a huge part of my story in terms
Oh
of
gosh,
we're growing the fold. That's what we're doing. That's where Michael and I think we were at a happy hour sometime, and we were just talking about just some random backgrounds at some point, and Ponca City came up, and after that, good people connecting. Yeah. It's the Landman business, the Landman way, Jerris.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Carry on with Ponca City.
So both different backgrounds bringing us to Oklahoma City, and you are OU, and you were Oklahoma State. Is that right?
Oklahoma State. I've actually have a bachelor's in Spanish.
No kidding.
Of all things, but yes, Oklahoma State. So you've got what's left of Bedlam right here in front of you.
That's really good.
Oh, that's true.
That's right.
This is what's left.
Even opposite sides of the table.
That's exactly
right.
So, exactly right. Well, tell us about Grant. Give us a rundown. I've been familiar with you and your dad for quite a while, and after Chesapeake, your journey took you to being able to start a company, and kind of give us the background on how you did that. What? First off, this is the Real Deal Landman Show. So, what drew you to being a landman?
Yeah, so the landman, my dad's a petroleum engineer. I think you may know I was homeschooled, and so dad was a math teacher, but being a petroleum engineer, math came really easy to him and not so much to me. But I knew I wanted to be in the industry. I grew up going out in the field with my dad and kicking around on the well sites. And it's you kind of like these deal making things. You might look at this landman degree at OU. And so we toured the OU campus and met with Steve Long, who was had just started maybe that semester, and got a hold of the curriculum and said, this is what I want to do. So went to OU to get the energy management degree, and then the rest is kind of where we're at today. And just, the land degree, and started my career with Chesapeake Energy.
Was that right out of school?
I was right out of school. I was an intern in 2010 and then full-time in 2011.
Anything really stick out from that Chesapeake intern program? It seemed like the interns at Chesapeake were treated pretty top-notch.
Oh, man, they gave us all sorts of gear, T-shirts and blankets, and then I was in a house in Norman one day, and you just get this big box from Chesapeake. It's
wow.
Thanks for being an intern. It's more Chesapeake
care package.
Did they put you on a jet? I know at one point that was a goal for all interns, was to get them on a jet at some point. Yeah, there you go.
It was that's my long-term goal, is to fly private.
Oh man,
it was that was awesome. Yeah, we flew to Arkansas.
Did you fly on the jet at any point?
I did. Yeah.
You did?
My interns never got to, though. My interns did not get to fly on the jet because we didn't have an area that was serviced by a jet. But what I would do instead is I would take them to Santa Fe for the BLM and state lease sale.
Okay. Nice.
But we got to go to Santa Fe, and so that was kind of a nice consolation prize. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, the whole, and not to go down the path of the private flying, but excuse us while we talk private.
My day will come.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
My day will come.
I remember I was way too young to get to do any of that stuff, but it was so nice to be afforded the opportunity to go to. It was Sayre, Pennsylvania, Towanda. Beautiful area, beautiful, fantastic Amish country, and a couple times Louisiana, I think. But at 5-ish, let's say, after that happens a few times, and you now are driving to the airport, and you get to drive out on I think it was at Wiley Post, drive out on the tarmac, and you leave your truck going, and somebody comes and they get in your truck and they go park it, and you just run up the stairs and get on the plane. And then when you're coming back and they're landing, you can already see the headlights of your truck sitting there, and you get back out. Standing in the Southwest line, the years after, it hits a little different now. And so, thankfully we are quite a few years removed from that, but it still lingers. The pain of that still lingers.
It has changed. I was flying to Houston and flying Southwest, and Nick was right behind me, so he flies Southwest.
Wow. So the man in charge of it. Okay.
Yeah,
wow. That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing.
It's called living within our means at this point.
Right.
Very nice.
Those old Chesapeake days, they're done. But you know what? I'm not a Chesapeaker, but I think that Mr. McClendon and the company created a high demand for people like myself that maybe didn't grow up in the oil and gas business, but were maybe savvy, fast talkers that could become landman lease buyers, whatever that may be. So when I look at, although I was not a Chesapeaker, I probably have a lot of thanks to give to Chesapeake because they created the demand for little McClendons traversing the countryside buying leases.
Yeah.
And that's how
That's
a lot of us got swept in.
Yeah, love him or hate him, you can't deny the influence that he was to the industry.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So we've got Grant going to school for this. Like, was it just kind of that love of being able to watch the oil and gas world, or what kind of got you into it, Michael?
Well, Drew, I'll be super quick because this can be a little lengthy, but I graduated from Oklahoma State in 2008 with a bachelor's in Spanish. And of course, the financial crisis was happening. There wasn't a lot of jobs. And so I actually became an AmeriCorps Vista. I was a volunteer in service to America for a year and a half, combating poverty, putting programs together, implementing those, etc. So I did that for a while. But while that was happening, my dad bought a home in your fair city, Ponca City. So as we're moving Dad in, as we were moving Dad in, I was like, oh, yeah, the mansion's up there. I hadn't been there in 1,000 years since I was a little kid. And I went up there and I bought a book, Life and Death of an Oilman, and it was the story of EW. So as I'm sitting there doing my Vistaship and later on at different jobs, I found myself continuing to read about the oil and gas business. Well, I'm not a geologist. I'm not an engineer. At the time, I wasn't a savvy business person. So as I kept thumbing through the book, I got to a chapter, Jerris, where E.W. Marlin was trying to secure a lease from the Native Americans up around White Eagle. Mm-hmm. And he spent like 3 days in a teepee with this chief trying to get this lease. And I was like, well, that I can do. Being persistent,
I can sit in a teepee for 3 days.
Get what's needed, And so that really, that's when I first heard the term, or at least the what it is to be a landman and acquire leases, et cetera. So that's actually how I learned about the craft of being a landman, acquiring leases, et cetera. And so I embarked on trying to get a job, and ultimately I did. On June 27th of 2011, I had an opportunity. But how I got into the business was by pure chance. My dad just happened to buy that house in Ponca.
That's a cool story, honestly.
Yeah, refamiliarized my story with E.W. Marlin, which of course we could do a 18-hour podcast about.
Yeah, honestly. And we probably should at some point. Like, we've done the history in Oklahoma, but we haven't really dove into different
to the real city.
Ponca City. Yeah. I want it. We'll do it on site.
Do it at the mansion.
We could.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
But that's a little bit about how I got into land. And there's all sorts of landmen from all sorts of different walks of life, and it's truly a fascinating industry and profession.
That was one of the things whenever I first started at Chesapeake, knowing Aubrey and Tom and seeing, and I mean, whether Aubrey or Tom would see this as a positive or a negative, I saw a lot of E.W. Marlin and Lou Wentz, lot of stories that were very similar of like competing for leasing activity, like up front, and then joining forces and like all these different things. And like, I remember in my early days at Chesapeake, I was like, wow, like it's really cool to see the stories of how these different leaders come together. So I like it. That's really neat.
EW and McClendon were actually very similar in their vision to grow fully integrated companies, et cetera, et cetera. So uber fascinating. We'll do an 18-hour marathon.
We need to, I'm telling you, we're going to put that together. The wheels are in motion. That's good stuff. Well, so you guys got into like this land space, and then we went through the Chesapeake with Grant, and then Grant, I mean, tell us how kind of Impact came to be.
Yes, Impact. So, with Dad being an engineer, being me and Lane guy, we'd always kind of thought at some point in time it'd be really, really cool to like partner up and work together. And he's like, well, go figure out the business, and when you have something to offer, we can join up. And so I'd spent about 5 years between internship and full time at Chesapeake. I was mostly working the Utica Shell, and in the fall of 2015, Chesapeake had the kind of massive layoff. I think there was like 700 people in one day, and I was probably the only person that was like, yeah, this is my opportunity, because I'd been starting to think about this.
Yeah.
And so we took a road trip. My wife and I, no kids at the time, and just loaded up our Dodge Charger and like hit every state west of kind of Oklahoma. And came back like
I remember you talking about this. How long was this
it's
trip?
about 33 days. We kind of camped and looked out at it.
It's so cool.
And so when we got back, we decided to start Impact Energy Partners, with the name being kind of like making impact in people's lives through energy. And so, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of money saved, but I had been saving some money. And thankfully, some of the guys at Jack Ford kind of, you know, gave me a day job so I could kind of work, you know, projects here and there to kind of pay the bills while still working on like building impact with my father. And so over the years, we just like slowly built it up. I think it was like in 2017, we did a deal with Stronghold Resource Partners.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people know them now. They're massive. Well,
Yeah.
We did a deal with them. I think we were their second funded group. Did a deal on a Walmart like folded table, like working off the term sheet, like, you know, and basically it was Ryan Turner and a few of the guys, and we put together a little leasehold prospect in Custer County and worked on that for about 18 months and did really well, and then kind of bought some operated properties in 18 and 19, and then 2020 was a difficult year, but we bought and stored physical oil in like frac tanks.
And that was pivoting even and getting really like coming up with a new idea of the impact environmental solutions, right?
Yeah. We started Environmental Impact Solutions in the fall of 2020 as well. 2021, just, you know, kind of the similar story, working on our wells and turning some things around and buying more things. And then in 2022, I think is probably what our most pivotal year was. And that's when we had the opportunity to put together a package of operated wells up in Wyoming for close to $30 million. And we, you know, with the help of Michael and our team, we just started calling partners and people we knew and put that deal together in the fall of 2022. And that led us to the CEO of EQV, which we can talk about here in a little bit, and just basically another guy out there kind of doing the same thing we were. And said, look, you guys can operate. Like, I'm doing a non-op strategy, but you know, I've got access to good capital, and can we like partner up and kind of form this company? And so we were like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And so we started EQV in 2020.
Late 23 into 24, because we bought our first asset in 2022.
Yeah, so we kind of set out with an idea of 23 with a couple of the partners from EQV, and it's been a wild ride. It's been tremendous. But we can talk about that.
The Raneys are what I call, you know, they're serial entrepreneurs. If there's an opportunity, they're at least going to take a shot at it. And you know, they did it with the Contango stuff, with the filling up the frac tanks with oil, and obviously starting the environmental company, which is actually what got me in through the doors with Grant. And so I like to think of them as they're serial entrepreneurs.
So what does the environmental company do?
So that's Grant's brainchild, but kind of my baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so 2020 was a rough year for everybody. I had been working at a notable brokerage most of my career. Had been as an independent landman. I started out with Vernon L. Smith and Associates out of Norman, the Smith family, and worked for a bunch of other great brokers and deal makers. And 2020, things got kind of rough, of course, for everybody. And I was doing some things on my own with an old friend of mine named Chase Mashburn, who's over at Baseline Minerals. We were just trying to survive, frankly. And anyways, phone starts ringing, and it's Grant. And he's like, hey, I want you to come and help me start this environmental company. Because, see, I had done brokerage work for Grant. And Grant was a tough client to get. In fact, when I first met him, I was like, you know, I don't care if I get this work or not. Like, because he was tough. But I ultimately got the work and developed a wonderful relationship with Grant and Mickey as a service provider or vendor. But anyways, around late 2020, Grant started calling on me. I'm starting this environmental company. I want you to come in and help sell it, etc. I said, Grant, I'm a landman. I know nothing about the environmental business. He goes, you don't have to. You just sell it like you did, previous. Yeah. Be you.
Yeah.
So he kept calling, and Grant's very persistent. And so I joined him. I joined him in February of 2021, and it has been the absolute best, and I'm not just saying that because he signs my checks, but it's just been a wonderful experience. And, frankly, I hope to spend the rest of my career with these guys because I've seen a lot. And when you find a good place, and sometimes it's not all in your control, but if you can help it, I'd love to work with these guys forever. But anyways, Jerris, to your point, environmental impact solutions, the point was to go out there and provide environmental services. And a big part of it was, Grant, as already being an operator, was already using some environmental services. And, they always just kind of felt like it could be done better, a little tighter. Communication could be more effective between the client and the service provider. So we embarked on this, and basically our main focus is remediating saltwater and oil spills, doing some of the desktop type work, like coming up, writing spill plans, air permits, tier 2 reporting, all these things that a lot of people don't really talk about whenever you speak of oil and gas. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's been a great business. We employ, at the moment, I think there's 4 guys over there, and they stay very busy cleaning up spills, writing spill plans. But it's not a business that's for the faint of heart. I mean, you've got to keep up with insurance and the maintenance of equipment,
absolutely.
and all these safety rating things that not everybody has the luxury to do. So that's what helps us set apart from our competition is that, we're on all these safety rating sites. Our guys are drug tested, et cetera, all these different details. But no, Environmental Impact Solution is very much an environmental company, and we predominantly work in Oklahoma. We have done some work in other states, but predominantly we're in Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle, cleaning spills and leaving it better for the next generation.
But I really like it. And like I've known Grant since maybe 17-ish or a little bit before that, probably.
No, I mean, I remember you.
Chesapeake.
You probably didn't know who I was.
I was pretty
was
big time
already
there.
on
I was.
the
Did you not hear me talking about the private jet? I was. I was on that way too much.
Yeah,
No, but when I first started to get to know you and like seeing, it was like the grind, and I think between you and Mickey, like you really see the grind that you guys have and the passion for being able to do good work with good people. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are sitting here. Like I would tell anybody this. I have liked, and you've spoke at the Oklahoma City University class a couple times. And so I've heard like this story that they've talked about. And like, I'm not trying to fill in the blanks here, but there's this things that I like so much is like Grant saw that things were going a little bit rough, as we all did, whenever prices, the writing was on the wall. And instead of like panicking or instead of being like, I don't know what we're going to do, it was getting that creative, like, how do we turn a very rough, terrible situation into something that can either be profitable or can make a difference for people? And like a few days later, he's sending me a picture of him out on a site running like like he's running a tiller. Like, I mean, he's out there in the field, not like I've got this idea, I'll get somebody else out there. Like I've got this idea, I'm going to go out and I'm going to test it. And then the other side of you looking at oil prices and seeing them dropping and immediately thinking, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. It's maybe we could buy that up and store it someplace. Like that's insane. Like this is so cool.
How many tanks did you fill?
So I think it was like 4,000 or 5,000 barrels is what we bought. And we put it all together in like probably 2 weeks. A friend of mine had just bought an oil hauling company. So he had sourced barrels, and we knew a couple guys up in Tulsa that they were an oil buyer, and we were like, hey, we'll buy it from you. So we were all in for probably about like $20 a barrel, trucked in, set on it for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months, and then sold it for probably 40 or 45 a barrel.
I mean, that's the freaking racket. That's good stuff. That is a really good stuff.
That's what you have to do.
No, I think about, and that's what I think we've talked to a lot of people on this show. We've talked about what makes like good leadership, what makes people that are like they're fighting like each and every day to find ways to make their company stronger. And it's stuff like that of where you're just like, I'm going to take some risk. I'm going to take a risk, but it's a calculated risk. Like I because of my experience and because of the people that I surround myself with. And I just absolutely love that. I think that is so stinking cool.
Drew, having a front row seat to it, it is fascinating what Grant and Mickey do. And, father-son teams, they don't often work. But these guys, I mean, if they didn't look alike so dang much, you wouldn't. Grant calls him Mickey. Mickey calls him Grant. I mean, they're just they're an unbelievable team, and they look out for all of us very much. And hey, we have our part to do, right? As
That's right.
Employees, and we don't take that lightly. But no, you're right. They're fascinating people and really opportunistic.
And you can tell when something's working too, and not just because of just the growth that you see on paper, but like I remember coming to you guys' office, and at first it was just going over on Northwest Expressway and just walking in kind of this older little just maze of a office building, and all the way in the back corner there was the Impact deal, and you walked in and there's just a few little desks and everybody at it. And now the last time I went over there and went through the little corridor, and it's all Impact.
We might be taking over the whole thing. There's probably not.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so cool.
That we're getting ready to take over. Even if we have to run an insurance company, we're coming for you.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we started out the company, just my dad and I, just the two of us. I think between like all the different entities we're involved with, including EQV, Impact Operating, and EIS, I think there's probably about 50 total employees, field team, office team, and so it's really been in kind of the last 5 years. But it's just the two of us to start out with.
Did I miss it somewhere? Has Impact had any kind of exit or any kind of divestiture during this time, or has it been solely growth?
No, it's been solely growth. We buy PDP and we typically hold it. We will sell off some leasehold opportunistically if we feel like we're going to get more than what we could hold on to it for. But I also have two little girls, 5 and 3, and hope one day that I'll be working with them in the business. So we're really kind of building it for like a long-term vision. It's privately owned between my father and I, so there's really no mandate to sell or exit, and we don't really have any other. We have partners within some of our stuff, but in terms of Impact, we own it 100%. So kind of build it to hold and see where it goes from there.
How many? Give us the rough stats. How many wells do you guys operate? What's your production?
Yeah, so with Impact, I think we're close to 300 operated wells. With EQV, we're probably close to 400 operated wells. So 700 operated wells total. On the non-op side, we just bought a couple more packages earlier this year. We're probably close to 1,000 wells that we have interest in.
Holy
across quite a few states. Not smaller interest, but it's kind of nice. You'll buy these, and then sometimes you get leasehold, and kind of like pops up, and you're like, oh, this is great. We have some leasehold out in the Cherokee, been getting some proposals on, and we're just always kind of we'll do deals from $5,000 to one of the deals that we did recently was a few $100 million. So we're very opportunistic and just kind of like go wherever the opportunity is.
Do you actively seek out leasehold? Like, do you go buy leases with the hope that you'll either drill on it and participate, or are you truly targeting the PDP existing stuff?
I would say we're PDP. We're yield focused. Can we buy it if it's operated? Can we optimize it? Can we get it in a 3 to 5 year payback? If the prices are consistent. And we've done some leasehold. Michael picked up a 9-acre lease out in western Oklahoma. And I think it's going to get drilled here later this year. So we will do some of that on occasion. But we're primarily driven through what's our return on cash in kind of the near term versus.
Jerris, we're predominantly, I would say, a natural gas producer. We up in Wyoming, obviously, we wanted those liquids up there, that oil, if you will, and so, but we're predominantly a natural gas player. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what we're producing daily, but
I know on the Impact and some of our operated wells on the gas side, we're probably 4,000 or 5,000 MCF a day gross. Mm-hmm. And then on the oil side, our Wyoming does about 1,200 barrels a day gross. Mm-hmm. On the EQV side, it's rather large. One of the fields we just bought in the Permian is about 18,000 BOE a day. So those wells are big.
Wow, that's good size.
We have a bunch of various kind of entities, and so when you wrap them all up, I don't know exactly what the total production is, but generally kind of on a field by field basis.
Well, success stories are awesome. Well, let's talk about some of the scary stuff. Mm-hmm. So when you went from I'm a landman at Chesapeake to now I'm going to start a company that's going to go into operations and things, I'm speculating here based on what I think my experience would be, is that there's a lot of stuff that I think I would know. And then I would go into it and realize, oh my gosh, I know way less than what I thought I knew. Like, what are some of those things that caught you by surprise, that what are new things that have been added to your skill sets in doing this venture that you were not expecting?
So I think, when I was at Chesapeake, you're a landman, Chesapeake.
You have all the resources in
That's
the
right.
world, right?
You have multiple GIS analysts, you have divisioners, you have land techs, you have all of this data. And so, you have like all these like servers and shared drives, and some files are all systematic. And then you start your own company. It's like, okay, I got to go pick up a computer from Best Buy because I'm not even big enough. I mean, this is true. We had an IT company, a friend of mine, like, well, we don't really just service 2 people. And so it's like, we had to like find a guy that would help us set up some systems.
The geek squad with an IT department.
SharePoint wasn't really a thing like it is today. So we had like this like NAS drive where we would like store our stuff on.
Oh my gosh.
And so of course now we're like on the cloud and all that. But just like setting up your computer systems, like, getting, one of the things they used to test people was like Snagit or Adobe Pro. Like you have to go set all those.
And now you have to pay for it too.
Yeah.
I remember one of the big purchases that we made was a copy machine. And we're like, well, we can get this used copy machine for like $4,000. And my dad's like, well, we can get a smaller one. I was like, yeah, but we want one that can like scan the email. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, I think we could do it. And so just getting like printers set up, posted meters. And another thing I think people don't maybe understand is when you set up a new company, like that company doesn't have credit.
Right.
So get credit cards and to get like trucks or any of that stuff, you have to like almost use your own personal line of credit to get all that stuff up. And it takes 3 to 5 years, to get fuel cards for your pumpers. Like there's a lot of like co-signing on these credit cards. Like you don't just, it's a company.
Right.
You got to develop the relationship with the bankers. And another thing too, when you're at a company, people know you for that identity. It's like, oh, that's the layman from Chesapeake. And oftentimes you're working with like other company laymen like to get wells drilled.
Yeah.
When you go out on your own, it's almost an entirely different network of deal makers that you have to find. And so you're no longer Grant Raney from Chesapeake, that can help you news. You're Grant Raney who doesn't have much capital. And it's like a whole other network of people out there. And so you had to probably spent 3 or 4 years just developing like a good network of deal flow and people you could trust and do deals with. And so those are some of the things I think people just don't, they don't think about.
Well, and Jerris, to your point, and I don't think this is the bad. It's just it can be difficult. In addition to being in the oil and gas business, they're in the people business. I mean, you've got all these humans in your office. Everybody has different attitudes, and they come from different walks of life. And Grant and Mickey have to understand all these characters. I know I'm not easy to deal with on it, but they figure out a way to do that. And so I probably, just outside looking in at what they do every day, I would imagine one of the most difficult parts. And also it's a blessing to be around such wonderful people that care about the company, but just managing all these different characters. And so I tip my hat to them. But, also I've seen Grant go from working on a complex land matter to suddenly having to take off his land hat and put on his IT hat and help somebody get set up. Yeah. And of course, over time that passes and you've got services, but there's probably there's just a lot of tough work that goes into it. And still to this day, you deal with difficult things.
I mean, since we started in 2015 was rough. 2020 was rough. Last year was one of the worst times for natural gas prices.
$1. The dollar.
We were getting in the cents for gas.
Yeah.
And that comes off the year of 2022 when they were the highest they've been in my career. And so you're like making all this money, and then basically the price crash within a year and a half later, and you're getting in the cents for gas. Now some of the stuff will hedge, but on some of the stuff it's like, you have small interest in small wells. It's just you kind of ride the wave. And so it's been the last 10 years have been very challenging, kind of navigate the pricing environment. There's a lot of private equity that have poured into the market. They're buying leasehold to flip, and so it's like you're it's hard to buy PDP, and so those have been some of the challenges that we. It's just I think you'll work sometimes. Always say if we can do one deal a year over $1 million on the PDP side of things, like that's pretty good. And if you look at some of the material out there from Tin Oaks or Dietrich or whoever, like if you look at the deals under 250 million, it's relatively a small set of deals that get done, excluding like leasehold sales and strategic mergers, but just on terms of PDP, it's very, very challenging to get deals done.
How do you find your deals? Do you approach people unsolicited? Are you buying stuff in the open market? Where do you get your leads on things?
We do it all. I think it seems like most of the deals that we've been able to be successful on have been failed sales from marketed process. The guys like EnergyNet, Tin Oaks, Dietrich, those guys have done a really good job of basically convincing sellers that we're the best opportunity to sell.
Yeah.
And so trying to get kind of a one-off deal here and there, they're always like, well, maybe I'll just take it to EnergyNet. So you get that a lot. So a lot of times we find it's just best to have really good relationships with brokers, and say, hey, is there anything that didn't sell this year? Hey, did that deal ever sell? And that's where we've been successful. And then Michael does a good job of working with operators and non-op folks, and we've done that as well. I would say our bigger deals are failed sales, failed processes. People throw in a high offer and then they don't have the money to back it up.
Yeah,
and we can come in with our capital and successfully get those closed.
Are people surprised when you come to them? I mean, it seems like these days the common question is, oh, well, who's your backer? Or and like, are they surprised when you say we don't have one? Like, it's just we do this ourselves.
So that was a big issue, like in the mid 2000s, when you ever seem like every time you're on LinkedIn or something, it's like so and so gets back for 300 million.
Right.
Yeah.
That
was all out there.
That was very challenging in the early days because you're like who are you? Like, you don't have a private equity group?
Right.
Like, no, we work with family offices and our own capital and local banks, but if we tell you we're going to close, we're going to close, and we do that. And so, but now, like, the buy and flip model is like not really there. And if you look at the money that's been raised through private equity, it's very challenging. Kind of with that ESG shift, there's several years just funds weren't getting raised. And so it has switched to more of like, okay, well, you're not backed by some private equity group, but we know you guys have closed deals in the past. We've worked with your team. We know maybe you can't close it in 30 days, but you're going to get it closed.
Right, it's getting there.
And you guys have that reputation. We built that reputation that with our various partners, if we take a deal to our partners, it's like a pretty quick raise and then just due diligence. So you're not competing as much on look, there was a ton of private equity raised, and there's not the same amount being raised to make those exits happen. And so there's this gap in capital, and it's being filled by groups like ours that have kind of like spent years building relationships with family offices and strategic non-op partners.
Jerris, in addition to pursuing failed sales, and of course, as Grant said, the marketed side of things is very effective. We like to pick up the phone and just call, make that introduction, say, hey, we're out here. We've got some wells near you in Woods County or wherever, would love to maybe make a move on some of your stuff near. And so we just, we pick up the phone, and if it's a long game, then it takes a year to get those wells. But if we want them, we'll work really hard to get them. But that's probably where I work a lot alongside Mickey is, he'll identify a particular property that maybe he sees potential in, and then I'll pick up the phone and start calling those operators, building rapport with them. And, more often than not, Mickey's been in the business 40 plus years. So a lot of folks know Mickey, and that puts people at ease. But that's probably where I have the most fun, Drew and Jerris, is probably just picking off those one-off wells under the impact banner. And so there's a lot of that too. We've been really successful as picking up smaller well sets in addition to chasing down bigger opportunities like our Wyoming deal.
It just takes time. I mean, like we closed a non-op deal earlier this year that we spent 3 years working on. It was one of those like they called, they wanted $3 million for it. I was like, that's way too high. Their financials were delayed 6 months, so they were bringing all the 2022 prices.
Yep,
we're not paying that.
No.
And then it was like you follow up every 6 months or so. Hey, where we're at? It's like, well, we want 2.5. Yeah, that's too much. And finally got it down to like $1 million, and which is a fair price,
Right.
It wasn't like we stole it or anything. Like
It's fair.
You know, it's a fair price. But it took 3 years, and I think people underestimate how long it can take sometimes to get deals done.
It's amazing.
And it can take like, you know, years of follow up, and it's just timing. You know, if you think you're gonna like, you know, open a business and take down that $50 million asset in 12 months.
Yeah, just because you hung your shingle out doesn't mean anything.
Right.
There's still work to be done.
I think a lot of people underestimate, like, it's very hard to raise capital. And if you think you're going to just roll out of a big oil and gas company and go pitch a deck to somebody, like, people want to see, like, how have you done managing small things? Like, well, how much money have you put in? And once you have built up that 1 to 50 to 100 operated wells, then investors, partners know, okay, like, they know they've been through what it takes to do that. And it's easier to stack on 200, 300, 400 wells versus like if you just don't have any assets. So we just kind of slowly built over the last 10 years and now it's a pretty sizable company.
So if either one of our listeners has assets that they're interested in offloading, do you welcome those types of
absolutely.
invitations?
Absolutely. And we usually can evaluate. Now, of course, we're increasingly becoming more busy every day, but we can usually get back to a prospective seller rather quickly on, hey, pending further due diligence, this is where we think we'll be. Does that do anything for you? We could come in a little higher, a little lower, but if this works for you, we'll dig in.
Yeah.
And that usually, you know, it's transparent and people understand that they do the same thing too if they were buying. So
that's right. That's exactly right. Oh, I going back to like the grind and everything, you making those connections. And I think I've seen you at the old Oklahoma City airport a few times going out, but I know for a fact there's a lot of like 5 o'clock in the mornings, Great Raney just sitting there, just looking already at his like laptop and just getting ready to go. So I don't know how many times.
I'm always looking for Drew.
I'm telling you.
I'm like, even if I'm going to Houston, I'm like, I'm probably going to run into Drew on the same flight.
We've been on a lot of them together for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, okay, so we hit the impact. We hit what you're doing. The EQV has been a really good move for you guys.
Yeah, that's been fascinating.
That seems like a pretty. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about EQV, or do you want to future cast at all of where you see like where impact and EQV together?
EQV is just really taken the success of our team, and we have new EQV employees, but the partners of EQV. Spun out of a previous private equity group, and some of the sharpest guys we probably ever worked with. And really, that model is instead of going to a management team raises money from a private equity group who then raises money from institutional capital.
Right.
We've basically flattened that down. So our partners at EQV have raised, you know, capital directly from traditional LPs and institutions. And so there's less of a promote. It's more direct line of sight.
Yeah.
It's direct capital. It's a lower cost of capital. And so through that, we've deployed over a few $100 million just in like operated wells over the last couple of years. So from kind of an idea of here's what we want to do to really execution, making it happen. And I think you know, maybe between, you know, like hopefully we'll do over $1 billion worth of deals over the next, you know, couple of years.
That's incredible. That's really incredible.
Timing is always important. You never know. Obviously, oil prices sliding into the low 60s.
Yeah.
People put some processes on hold, but our team is well positioned. If the opportunity is there, we can take advantage of it.
Impact operates predominantly Oklahoma and Wyoming.
Okay.
On the EQV side, at this time, we are operating predominantly in Texas. We're in the Texas Panhandle. That was an acquisition that we made from a Oklahoma publicly traded company, and then of course we acquired that Reeves County asset from a private company. And as Grant said, there's just a great deal of opportunity there, great deal of runway. The partners are just some of the brightest minds. And then of course, you know, we've got the SPAC component, which naturally we're very limited on what we can say, but that in itself was just an unbelievable experience from when it was just a thought at what feels like at a FedEx in Houston to actually doing it and being next to Grant in the New York Stock Exchange ringing the closing bell.
That's pretty awesome.
And you know,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Drew and Jerris, and I still find myself sort of pinching myself like, did that really happen? And it's just, but and it did, of course, and and it's a moment in time, and you get busy with other things, but you can't be amiss of how instrumental that was for us as a young company and for all of us as individuals and professionals. Like sometimes you need that kind of experience to let you know, like,
Absolutely.
hey, you know what? We can really do anything. So whether it's on either, as I often say, whether it's on the impact side of the hall or on the EQV side of the hall, there's just so much excitement, lots and lots of hard work taking place. And I mean, I don't want to, sound hokey, but pick your side of the hall, the sky's the limit. And so that's been pretty fascinating for a guy that should have been chewed up and spit out every single year for the past 14 years to be sitting here chatting with you guys and sit next to Grant. Like it really truly is fascinating and humbling. But at the end of the day, it's all based around hard work. How hard are you willing to work? Now, look, are you going to beat the Raneys to the office when Mickey is there at 6 a.m. and Grant is often there till 7, 8 p.m. at night? There are seasons that you will do that, but they're obviously very committed. It's their company, etc. But we just try to keep up and work hard. And no, the whole dang thing has just been absolutely fascinating.
I think that's the thing. We have a tremendous group of like team players. Like when we launched EQV. EQV is taking up it's a majority of our time right now because that's where like the capital is, and we can really take our skill set and really just multiply it with that capital. And so we've had accountants working like overtime as we've kind of seen this massive growth. We're hiring people to kind of keep up, but nobody at the company was like, look, I didn't sign up for this, or like, this is too much responsibility, or like, I don't know how to do this. Like, it's because of the team that we've been blessed to work with, that we can like take these ideas and say, look, we're just going to do it and figure it out.
Right.
That we can, whereas a lot of people might say, look, I didn't sign up for this. Like, my job is to do this.
Yeah.
Like, not one person at the office has been like,
I love something.
And so it's like, look, whatever needs to be done, I'll do it. If I can't figure it out, I'll ask somebody. I'll figure it out. Like, I'll watch YouTube videos, whatever we need to do to make this happen. And so that's what we've been doing with, like, on the EQV side, is we've really ramped up. Like, everybody's just kind of pitching in. It's kind of the majority of our focus right now.
Sure. And the land team's strong. I mean, obviously anchored by Grant. And we've got Nick Watkins over there as our land manager.
Great guy.
He's a Chesapeake legend, a land legend, if you will. And what a teacher, so patient. I mean, I'm a deal guy. I mean, so forever I have avoided the complexities of land, right? When you look at land, always the landman, it seems sexy. He's out there putting deals together. No, there's a whole other side of it. The likes of that Nick Watkins digs into land, keeping you out of, Nick keeps us out of more trouble than anything, right? He makes sure that everything is buttoned down and happening. So the land team, is very strong. And obviously Grant and Nick are a huge part of that. And obviously the support staff, whether it's the division order clerks or whoever. And so that's probably an outdated term, clerk. But the division order analyst, all those people are so important, but really blessed to be able to work alongside a couple of CPLs like Grant and Nick. They're just a wealth of knowledge and really patient teachers.
Definitely. That's the thing. Have you ever rang the bell on the stock exchange?
Not that I know of.
Oh, you should try it sometime.
You should try it sometime.
What? When did you do it?
I never have. But I'm just trying to fit in. I don't know.
Drew, Jerris, and Grant can speak to this because, obviously he's in the throes of everything EQV. But it was just such a unique experience to be in and out of the boardrooms leading up to going to ring the bell.
Yeah.
Sitting there with all these, very successful people who sit on the EQV board and all these bright minds. And myself, Danny, Mickey, Danny Murray is our chief financial officer and does so much. He's former Chesapeake. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Chesapeake.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true.
But all of us being there and together and ringing the bell with those the partners at EQV and some of the support people that have helped us get to where we have been. But what was amazing? I remember walking through the trading floor as we were going through the whole motions, and all those traders are finishing their day. And of course, they see this every day. They see little groups parading through the floor every day. And But the takeaway for me, Grant, as I looked at those traders was like, hey, listen, we see this every day. You guys gonna make us any money or what?
Yeah.
And so that's still to be determined. As I mentioned, obviously we can't say a lot, but as you can imagine, working very hard to fulfill that. But that was a big takeaway, just walking through that floor, seeing all those screens.
Yeah.
and all
It's
those
so impressive.
traders.
It's so stinking cool.
Mind blowing, and just walking around Wall Street and the whole thing was just like a dang fantasy.
Well, I mean, you go from that and sitting in those boardrooms, and then, I mean, a few months later, you get to sit here with Jerris and I. I mean, we go from highs to lows.
Yeah.
Lives.
Peaks and valleys.
Jerris and I are thinking about launching our own NFTs.
You
Might as well, get some Real Deal Landman art out there.
Yes,
Are they-
trading cards.
Are NFTs still a thing?
I don't know.
Maybe they are. You'll bring it back.
It could be. I mean, we'll see. But
You guys have a
We've-
wonderful platform.
we
Seen a lot
appreciate
of
it.
the guests that you guys have had. I think I've seen Kosho on.
Coach Show's been on. Coach Show's going to be on again.
I say that you've had great guests.
We've been fortunate. We've been incredibly fortunate. We are so happy. We're
For most of them.
for most of them. I mean, some of them terrible, right?
Sorry to water it down.
No, you guys
The
are
likes of-
you guys are fantastic. We are absolutely number one. We're blessed for having you guys on. We genuinely appreciate that. We appreciate everything that you've done, the stories that you've been able to share, the stories of growth and the grind. I mean, I think that encapsulates really what we're trying to do with this whole show. Show that's the grind that the Landman's going for.
Well, one of the things that was passing through my mind as we were hearing these different stories is there is the saying or the understanding that a landman wears many hats.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not just these two fine gentlemen that we have had today talking about environmental company or buying these different assets, becoming an operator, et cetera, but also reflecting on past guests that we've had as well, that
Absolutely.
everybody has done something different or is doing something different.
That's right.
But they all still fall under that same landman umbrella. Whether they realize it or not, they're there within that umbrella and they're doing that profession. And it's just,
That's right.
it's a fascinating job.
Sometime you're at the courthouse. Sometime you're at the Oklahoma or one of the airports. Sometimes you're fixing a copier that you just bought for $4,000. I mean, you got to wear those hats.
You've done a great job.
Yeah, thank you both so much. So if the people listening at home, they want to get a hold of you guys, they want to get a hold of Impact, how do they do it?
Email is grant.raney@impactenergy.us.
Michael.Gumbs, same handle, and then on the EQV side, same first name dot last name at EQV Operating, but we're very much in acquisitions mode, and although prices are suppressed, we're hoping to bolt something on this year. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to.
That's fantastic. And so check them out online. Go to their LinkedIn, both Michael Gumbs, Grant Raney. So I'm Drew Hopkins.
Jerris
Johnson. We like to thank our sponsors, Scrambled, Roland AI, Novus Consulting. I mean, the list goes on and on, doesn't it?
Big Al's Bait Shop.
Big Al's Bait
I heard
Shop.
about them. Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of
Thank
this
you.
show, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.